It's like Justin Baldoni saying, I'd love to work with Blake again.
Ooh, and even the audience is like laughing, but like, should we laugh at this given what you did last week? To me, this shows SNL playing its cards of, yeah, they're clearly, they know Blake Lively is crazy.
Blake clearly had no idea what kind of a mess she was getting herself into.
Welcome to CelebRush. Buckle up, because today's headline is explosive. Blake Lively has everyone talking, but this time, it's not about a hit movie or a jaw-dropping red carpet moment. She's just dropped an $80 million lawsuit on Saturday Night Live after a shocking live TV moment that left her feeling completely exposed in front of millions. How did a single comedy sketch spiral into a full-blown legal war against one of television's most legendary institutions?
Learning more about Blake, her mother, the way she is, the entitlement and selfishness and demands she needs to have in order to have authority. It doesn't surprise me that she has spun this narrative in her favor.
And just how far are A-list stars willing to go to guard their reputation at all costs? This legal showdown is more than just courtroom drama. It's a battle over power, privacy, and public image. Let's get into it. At the center of this chaos, Blake Lively, her husband Ryan Reynolds, and one brutal joke that turned a seemingly harmless sketch into a PR nightmare. Hollywood's golden couple, usually adored by fans, was suddenly caught in the crosshairs of a media storm, scrambling to take back control after an on-air humiliation. It all started when Saturday Night Live aired a segment featuring Colin Jost. In the blink of an eye, he dropped a comment that sent shockwaves through the entertainment world. That one-liner didn't just sting, it ignited speculation about Blake and Ryan's already rumored legal troubles, pushing their private battles straight into the public eye. And now, the fallout is bigger than anyone could have imagined. Suddenly, the internet exploded. Social media was flooded with theories about Blake Lively's lawsuit, Ryan Reynolds' role in it, and the whispers that had been circling for months. People weren't just talking. They were digging, trying to piece together what had really been happening behind the scenes. And here's where things took a turn. Ryan Reynolds made the bold decision to appear on Saturday Night Live right when he and Blake were already under intense scrutiny.
Who else has a question?
I have a question.
Oh, hey, Ryan Reynolds.
Hi.
Hey. How's it going?
Great. Why? What have you heard?
And given the appearance, she's gonna have this same reaction of, wait a second, why are you making fun of me? I thought you had our back, Sarah, Live. What's going on?
The timing? Awful. The couple was already juggling swirling rumors. One's tied to another Hollywood name, Justin Bald, a celebrity with a complicated past involving Blake. Yet, despite the tension, Ryan seemingly thought a lighthearted cameo was the right move, even as legal drama loomed over them. Then came the moment that set everything off. A simple, seemingly harmless question. Hey, Ryan, how's it going? But Ryan's response? It was loaded. His joke carried just enough nervous energy to make the audience pause, half laughing, half wondering if they were witnessing something real bubbling beneath the surface. And then, boom! Colin Jost jumped in, delivering a sharp-witted remark that might have seemed spontaneous. But let's be real, it was calculated. His jab? Aimed at Justin Bald's eagerness to work with Blake again. The setup? A political analogy that started lighthearted until it flipped and suddenly targeted Blake herself. The air in the studio shifted. Viewers at home felt it too. Was this comedy, or was this a direct hit? Either way, the risk was massive and the fallout was immediate. It was just a quick line, but it hit like a wrecking ball. Almost instantly, people started connecting the dots. Some pointed out a juicy little detail. Colin Jost is married to Scarlett Johansson, one of Ryan Reynolds' most famous exes. Coincidence? Maybe. But to the internet, it was another layer of drama in an already messy situation. Whatever Colin's real intent was, the audience felt it. This wasn't just a throwaway joke. It was a loaded personal jab, delivered live for millions to see. And the internet? It lost its mind. Hollywood fans live for this kind of mess, and suddenly, this tiny moment became the story. News outlets ran with it. Social media went wild. And the worst part? It wasn't just about that one joke anymore. It was about Blake. Articles started popping up left and right, questioning everything. Her carefully curated image as the gracious, down-to-earth A-lister was under attack. Old rumors resurfaced, and suddenly, people were mocking the idea that Justin Baldoni would ever even want to work with her again. The internet spun it into a full-blown character takedown. Memes, debates, speculation, it was everywhere. Within 24 hours, that one joke had been reposted and viewed over 3.5 million times. It wasn't just another bad headline. It was a public spectacle. Blake wasn't just facing criticism. She was watching her credibility crumble while the world laughed at her expense. The situation spiraled fast. Suddenly, old interviews resurfaced. Clips where fellow A-listers once gushed about Blake were now being re-examined with suspicion. Was all that praise real, or was it just Hollywood PR? The internet had questions. Meanwhile, Ryan? He wasn't off the hook either. People were side-eyeing him for cracking jokes when, according to critics, he should have been quietly handling the crisis alongside Blake. His usual charm wasn't working. This time, it felt tone-deaf. And that's when Blake made a bold move. She brought in Nick Shapiro, a name that raised eyebrows fast. His reported ties to high-level intelligence work and media-focused crisis management set off alarm bells. Hollywood stars hiring PR teams? Normal. But someone with a background in intelligence operations? That was next level. The move practically screamed damage control at all costs. The internet wasted no time calling out the irony.
She can hire a PR crisis manager, that's fine, but if Justin does it, it's not to protect himself, but it's to destroy her.
Blake had previously slammed Justin Baldoni for using aggressive PR tactics to shape public perception. Yet here she was, bringing in someone rumored to have handled political-level controversies. To many, it looked hypocritical. And then, the lawsuit itself took on a whole new angle. The headlines kept rolling in, stories painting Blake as either winning big or as a legal mastermind outmaneuvering her opponents. But if you looked past the noise, there was one glaring problem. Where was the actual proof of these supposed courtroom victories? The press was flooded with spin, but when you dug deeper, it started looking a lot less like justice and a lot more like a carefully crafted PR blitz. The cracks in Blake's legal strategy were starting to show. Despite the relentless PR push painting her as a legal powerhouse, reports suggested that some of her biggest courtroom demands had been rejected or scaled back. Yet, the headlines kept spinning it as if she was winning every battle. But instead of calming the storm, each new media blitz only fueled more skepticism. People began asking, if Blake's case was so ironclad, why did she need these extreme crisis management tactics? And then, whispers started circulating. Had the judge actually dismissed some of her demands? The moment doubt crept in, everything shifted. Fans who might have originally sided with Blake now hesitated. Was this really about justice, or was it about control? The more people questioned her credibility, the more the entire lawsuit started looking shaky. And then, just when things couldn't get worse, Ryan got dragged into his own separate mess. An old clip resurfaced, showing him telling a story about an awkward moment when he accidentally stared at a woman breastfeeding in public. Normally, this would have been brushed off as a cringy but harmless anecdote. But in the context of Blake's case, disaster. Why? Because Blake herself had previously accused another man, James Heath, of making eye contact while she was nursing. Critics pounced. Wait a minute. Blake is calling out another man for a fleeting glance, but Ryan's out here laughing about staring? The double standard hit hard, and suddenly, the conversation wasn't just about a lawsuit, it was about Blake and Ryan's entire public image crumbling at the seams. The hypocrisy was impossible to ignore. If Blake saw fleeting eye contact as a serious violation, then how could Ryan's extended staring be played off as just a funny story? That contradiction hit hard. People started feeling like the couple was playing by two different sets of rules, one for themselves and another for everyone else. And just like that, Ryan's easygoing, comedic reputation clashed with the weight of Blake's allegations. The public started reassessing everything. Was Blake's outrage genuine, or had her claims been blown out of proportion? Then the Hollywood dominoes started falling. In the entertainment industry, image is everything, and the moment it starts to crack, support disappears fast. Instead of A-listers rushing to defend Blake, there was an awkward silence. Co-stars, collaborators, and industry peers weren't exactly lining up to back her up.
This is what blew me away. When she first came out with all this, I went, what he is, you know? And as a...
Everyone did. We'll do what we want because we're more powerful than you. And he finally had enough and he countersued.
When asked about Blake, the responses were painfully careful. Some looked visibly uncomfortable. Others dodged the topic altogether. A castmate from her upcoming project was directly asked, "How are you supporting her during this time?" His answer? A hesitant, "It's complicated." Not exactly a glowing endorsement. Another high-profile colleague barely managed a polite, vague statement, more about keeping their film's marketability intact than actually defending Blake. The enthusiasm? Non-existent. And in an industry where loyalty is often just a PR move, the lack of strong support spoke volumes. Commentators didn't hold back. This was the classic Hollywood cold shoulder. When an A-lister becomes a liability, the industry doesn't outright attack them. Instead, they quietly step away, letting the star face the fire alone. Media insiders had seen it before. One minute, a celebrity is surrounded by support. The next, they're radioactive. No one wants to be too associated with them, so they issue polite, non-committal statements and distance themselves. Blake was getting that treatment in real time. Meanwhile, Ryan tried to do what he does best, lean into humor. Normally, his quick wit and self-deprecating charm would smooth over controversy. But this time, it backfired. Instead of diffusing the situation, his lighthearted approach only amplified how serious the accusations had become. And then there was the Colin Jost factor. People couldn't ignore the layers of this mess. Was it just a coincidence that Jost, who's married to Scarlett Johansson, one of Ryan's most famous exes, was the one delivering these sharp-edged quips? Or was there more to it? Whether true or not, the speculation spread fast, and one thing became clear. Ryan's usual brand of humor wasn't landing like it used to. As for Blake, instead of stepping back, letting the noise die down, and focusing on her legal case, she doubled down. If anything, she was pushing harder, ensuring that the controversy kept rolling instead of fading into the background. Blake's PR push was relentless, but to many, it felt over the top. Some media outlets ran victory lap headlines, painting her lawsuit as a major win. But legal analysts? They weren't buying it. When they actually dug into the court documents, the reality was far less triumphant. Her requests had reportedly been denied or heavily restricted.
Now, what's fascinating, though, is the judge denied it. The judge was like, nope, you do not have a good enough excuse.
Meaning those glowing reports were more about optics than actual legal success. And that's when people started connecting the dots. This wasn't the first time Hollywood had seen a celebrity spin minor courtroom updates into supposed landmark victories. But the more Blake's PR machine pushed the narrative, the more the industry started pulling away. In film and television, reputation matters. Big productions want bankable stars, people who bring buzz for the right reasons, not ones who come with baggage. The moment an actor's off-screen drama starts to overshadow a project, studios, co-stars, and directors start making quiet exits. And in Blake's case, the shift was happening fast. Producers who once raved about working with her, now they were carefully dodging the topic. Even her brand endorsements, a major pillar of her public image, began looking unstable.
And sometimes I would have people who really resented that because they were like, we just hired you to be an actor. Yet when I went in the meetings, I would just seem like I'm just there to be the actor and ready to get the gig. I wouldn't reveal that I actually need to have authorship in order to feel.
But the fallout wasn't just about Hollywood. According to insider chatter, her corporate relationships were also cracking. Brands that had long aligned with her wholesome image, family-friendly campaigns, lifestyle ventures, philanthropic projects, were now reevaluating their partnerships. Executives who once praised her warmth and class were suddenly issuing guarded statements. The message? They weren't cutting ties yet, but they were definitely watching closely. And if things got worse, those once loyal partnerships might not survive the storm. The scale of Blake's crisis management raised serious red flags across Hollywood. Bringing in a former intelligence operative wasn't just a standard PR move, it signaled that this wasn't a typical celebrity scandal. Industry insiders started getting nervous. If the situation was this severe, what else was lurking beneath the surface? The real fear? No one wanted to be seen as complicit in a carefully orchestrated media manipulation, or worse, a cover-up. Blake had long been known for her perfect blend of glamour and relatability, but suddenly, she was looking less like America's sweetheart and more like a calculated PR chess player. And in Hollywood, that kind of baggage can make even seasoned producers hesitate. Meanwhile, online communities were obsessed. Every leaked rumor, every supposed email, every alleged court document was picked apart in real time. What started as a legal dispute had morphed into a full-blown social media spectacle. Some saw the whole thing as just another messy celebrity scandal. Others? They believed it was exposing bigger questions about Hollywood itself. Who gets protected, who gets dragged, and how public perception can be shaped with just the right spin. And then came the real concern, the impact on future projects. Would studios take a risk on Blake or Ryan while this mess was still unfolding? Hollywood watches the internet, and casting directors pay attention to public sentiment. Whether fair or not, when enough negative buzz builds, it can tank an actor's value overnight. If studios started whispering that their presence could overshadow a film, there was only one possible outcome. Blake and Ryan might find themselves quietly phased out of major opportunities before they even knew what hit them. Projects that once seemed like sure bets for Blake and Ryan were now looking uncertain. Films that had been set to star them, or even feature cameos, were quietly re-evaluating their options. Marketing strategies were being tweaked, and in some cases, the idea of recasting wasn't off the table. Then came the bigger warning sign. Scripts Blake had been attached to for years were suddenly getting passed around as if studios were checking whether they could move forward without her. Rumors swirled that mid-budget dramas, where she used to be a key selling point, were already exploring alternative leads. To the public, these might seem like small shifts, but in Hollywood, it was a clear message. Studios were hedging their bets. As for Ryan, his usual comedic charm, once his greatest strength, was losing its magic. The jokes that once made him Hollywood's favorite wisecracker were now being scrutinized in a different light. What used to come off as effortless humor? Now, it felt more like deflection. Commentators pointed out that Ryan's entire PR strategy revolved around his playful, self-aware persona. But when lawsuits, intelligence-linked PR hires, and serious accusations were dominating the conversation, his funny guy routine wasn't landing the way it used to. Instead of looking like classic Ryan Reynolds humor, it was starting to blur the line between comedic brand building and public denial. And fans were noticing. Message boards were flooded with concerns from people who once adored the couple. Many felt like they'd been misled by the carefully curated image Blake and Ryan had spent years crafting. Fans pointed to old interviews where they spoke about family values, trust, and authenticity. Then came the flashpoint, the breastfeeding controversy. If Blake was pushing legal arguments that a man's fleeting glance had been traumatizing, how did that line up with Ryan laughing about his own admitted staring? To some, it didn't just look like a contradiction, it looked like a double standard they could no longer ignore. Ryan's open admission of prolonged staring, while Blake condemned a fleeting glance? That contradiction was too big to ignore. The internet erupted. Fierce debates spread across social media, and even some of the couple's most loyal supporters started questioning everything. But beyond the drama, a bigger conversation emerged. One about the nature of Hollywood scandals in the modern age. When A-listers, massive lawsuit figures, and sensational rumors collide, the headlines don't stop. Stories like this don't just fade away. They consume the media cycle for months. Some pointed out the pattern, parallels to other high-profile defamation and harassment cases that once captivated the world. The same strategic leaks, the same press releases, the same calculated late-night TV appearances, all orchestrated moves meant to shape public sympathy. But Blake's decision to bring in an intelligence-linked crisis manager? To many, that wasn't just PR. It was an aggressive attempt to control the narrative. Meanwhile, legal experts reminded everyone of one crucial truth. At the end of the day, courts don't care about social media. The real battle wouldn't be won through clickbait headlines or spinning the press. It would come down to facts, verifiable evidence, official documents, witness testimony, and consistency. And if Blake's claims didn't hold up under scrutiny, no amount of high-powered PR would save her case in a courtroom. At the same time, if Ryan kept accidentally feeding the rumor mill with his offhand remarks, he could unravel whatever supportive narrative they were trying to build. Every joke, every misstep, every misread moment, it all mattered. So what happens next? That remains to be seen. But one thing's for sure, Hollywood will never be the same after this. And now, we want to hear your thoughts. Do you think Blake and Ryan's reputations can recover? Was the backlash justified? Let us know in the comments. And don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you never miss the next bombshell from CelebRush.